Hey everyone, welcome back to the FantasyPros Football Podcast with Mike Tagliere, and I'm Bobby Sylvester. Today we've got our DFS show, and we're on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. Tags, how's it going, man?
It's going, dude. It's week 17. It's going to be a different type of show today, obviously with teams taking the week off essentially, and we'll talk about those teams. But how's the week 17 going for you? How was Christmas?
Good, man. Christmas was great. I'm glad to be back at work, which is not something most people can say, but we have the best job in the world, so no complaints, man.
Definitely. And also, for those of you who don't know, Bobby's birthday is on Christmas, so make sure to shoot him a happy birthday on Twitter. Yeah, it's belated, obviously, by the time this comes out, but happy birthday again, buddy.
Hey, by the way, thanks for the signed Kevin White helmet that you sent me.
Of course. I think that your gift was better. Bobby sent me a Calvin Ridley signed Alabama jersey, and I got him a signed Kevin White helmet. So mine was more like, I was searching for something like Stephen Morris related, and they didn't have it. But to know that they had a Kevin White signed helmet was like, that was a win.
Probably because everyone wants the Stephen Morris ones, man. Like, they just go so quickly. It's probably like $5,000. Anyway, Tex and I both got those from Pristine Auction, which is one of the sponsors of today's show, so I want to tell you a little bit about it. Pristine Auction has hundreds of items that they auction off every single day. You're going to be surprised by some of the prices. Like, it can be really affordable. I saw a signed Christian McCaffrey Stanford Cardinals jersey went for just $67 yesterday. A signed Odell Beckham Giants football, $68. There's really affordable prices. You can find something. Whoever your team is, whoever you're a fan of, to fill out your cave, you'll absolutely love pristineauction.com. And everything is guaranteed authentic from only the most trusted sources. Again, that's pristineauction.com, Pristine. And while you're thinking about Pristine Auction, we've got a giveaway going on right now. We're giving away a signed David Johnson helmet to one lucky listener, and the contest ends this Sunday. So make sure to get your entry in now at fantasypros.com/contest. Tags, you ready to get into this bad boy?
Ready to rock, dude.
You know, I really like week 17 because, like, you know, it's great playing season long and everything, but now I can focus on one thing, DFS, and I feel great about my lineup this week. With that said, there are some funky things going on. Do you think that any teams are actually going to rest their players? Maybe the Saints, Cowboys?
Yeah, the Saints and the Cowboys, definitely. I will have no exposure to any of them in DFS. I mean, if you want to throw something in a tournament lineup because the ownership will be lower, I guess. But I mean, the casual fan is going to put Saints and Cowboys in their lineup. So my suggestion is that don't play them. I would actually say that the Seahawks are probably part of that list. I don't think that they have enough to play for that I would consider them this week. And that's just like, I want to play it safe, especially if you're doing like a cash lineup. The Bears, they're a team that's likely to rest some starters. So these are teams that you need to be aware that you should stay away from, this week. Like that's, especially in cash lineups, we're going to separate the two. And if for those of you, like, I've received some questions on Twitter about cash lineups and what the difference is between those and GPPs, is that cash lineups are if you're playing 50-50s, you're playing double ups, you're playing head to heads. Basically, if you beat half the field, you're going to earn some money. Whereas GPPs, those are more based on guaranteed prize pools. And usually, you know, the top 10 to 15% are paid out. So that's more where you have to take a little bit more risks because you want to get towards the top. So, in cash, you want to stay away from the Saints, Cowboys, Seahawks, Bears. Those are the teams that I would probably just try and stay away from.
You know, we're going to move a lot faster on quarterbacks too, because we've got some feedback like, dude, you guys talk about quarterbacks too long and then there's not enough time for GPP. So we heard you all. If you guys have any more feedback, we really appreciate it because the show is for you guys. We want to know what you guys like, what you guys don't like. If you don't mind leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, it does really help us out because then we can, you know, change the show to your liking, and it also helps us move up the rankings as well. Tells our bosses we're doing a good job. So if you don't mind stopping in, it takes like 30 seconds to leave a review. All right, man. Quarterbacks, who do you like for cash games this week?
It's really tough. I mean, like, so looking at the rest of the slate and, you know, like, we'll get into all that stuff, but I'm probably going to have to pay down a quarterback a little bit. I mean, it would be really nice to get Mahomes or Roethlisberger in your lineup, but going down to someone like Lamar Jackson kind of makes sense. You know, this game means a lot to Baltimore, obviously. I mean, like, if they win, they're in, essentially, and they're playing the Browns. The Browns have allowed 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks to rush for at least 21 yards against them. They've allowed 2 rushing touchdowns in that time. Lamar Jackson, I mean, since he took over as the starter, I'm almost positive he hasn't finished with fewer than like 16 fantasy points. So that gives you a solid floor at 5,600. I mean, I'm torn between someone like him and Jameis, because Jameis against Atlanta is really nice too. I think Jameis has the higher ceiling, and you're paying 500 or more for him, so it just depends on lineup construction for me.
If you're paying down, I like Lamar Jackson. I like Jameis Winston. My favorite, though, is probably Matthew Stafford, at least on FanDuel. He's only 6,500 going up against Green Bay. Not a bad price whatsoever. On DraftKings, I agree. Lamar Jackson's my guy. Or you could go down even further to Sam Darnold against the Patriots. What do you think about that one?
Sam Darnold against the Patriots, I don't know. He doesn't offer the rushing floor that I would want, I don't think. And that's like, if you want to go really cheap, I mean, you can go down to Blake Bortles. If you guys didn't hear Blake.
You're right.
Blake Bortles is starting, and this game is in Houston, so that's the part I don't like about him, because Blake Bortles has actually been a whole
garbage time, baby. That's what it means.
Yeah, it's just so tough for me to like go all in on Bortles, considering he was just benched.
He could get yanked again, right? There's no way I'd play him in cash games.
He definitely could get benched. That's like a positive, but I mean, it's just tough. He offers a rushing floor. I mean, over the last 4 games, Houston has allowed over 1,800 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, and that was to Nick Foles, Sam Darnold, Andrew Luck, and Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's really tempting. I probably couldn't do it. Like I said, I'm probably debating between Lamar Jackson and Jameis Winston.
You know who has more 20-point games this season between Blake Bortles and Tom Brady?
Is it Bortles?
It's Blake Bortles.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, man.
That is just flat out nuts.
Isn't that stupid?
It is. It's fantasy football, though.
Yeah, I'm not paying down at quarterback this week. I'm going all in on Patrick Mahomes, man.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is Mahomes it's weird because he hasn't been as good at home, and you would think that's crazy, but it's because their defense is so much better at home. And on top of that, here's my concern with Mahomes. The Raiders average just a 13.6 points per game on the road. The Chiefs average over a touchdown less that they allow at home. So it's like the scoring for Oakland just doesn't really add up in this game. That's my concern. So that's why Mahomes, it's like
Are you worried? I mean, they're 14-point favorites, but again, the Chiefs have been 14-point favorites a lot this season, and he keeps producing. His low on the season is 16 points. That was against Jacksonville. He had 18 a few weeks back against the Chargers. Besides that, he's been 21 plus every single week. 21 against the Ravens. His next lowest is 23 against Denver. I mean, this guy piles up 25 points week in and week out. Last time he played the Raiders, 33. He ran the ball 9 times for 52 yards. I think he's a lock for 25, man.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't disagree with that, but the problem, if you pay up for Mahomes, is that I'm not going to be able to fit in Kelsey. And I'm playing Kelsey in like every lineup this week. And that's basically what it comes down to. That's the only reason I have to pay down a quarterback. Like, I want to pay for targets at wide receiver. I want to pay up for Travis Kelsey. And, I mean, if you guys don't remember, like Kelsey, like I know we're skipping ahead here, but Kelsey, the last time he played the Raiders, 12 catches for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. There actually should have been a 3rd touchdown that was called back.
I get that, man, but I mean, my lock of the week is at tight end, and it's not Kelsey.
I'm interested to see that. So obviously I'm waiting.
I'm surprised you don't know who it is. I'm pretty sure everyone's playing him.
I mean, I can't wait to hear it. But, Kelsey, honestly, I didn't even look that closely at other tight ends because I can't find a reason not to play Kelsey, especially knowing that Oakland they haven't allowed many big games to wide receivers. You know, between the running back, Spencer Ware and Damian Williams, they're fine. But again, it's like, with Tyreek Hill struggling a little bit and Oakland being a tougher matchup for wide receivers, I just feel like this is a Kelsey smash spot. And it's like, if there was a wide receiver that was guaranteed 10 targets in a matchup as good as this, and he cost 7,200, I mean, people would play him. So yeah, I can't wait to hear that one. But, so that's the reason that's like for Mahomes, I have a piece of him and Kelsey.
So those are our favorites, Mahomes, Winston, Jackson. I think we can agree on those 3. I like Matthew Stafford's price on FanDuel. Anyone else you'd even consider? I kind of like Matt Ryan, Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers. But if you're paying up that much, I'd rather go Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, if you're going to go that high, it's pretty tough. I mean, Rodgers is interesting. 5 of the last 10 games against Detroit have netted 22 plus fantasy points. But I think that's more of like a tournament play where it's like, Rodgers hasn't been, a guy that's regularly posting like 3+ touchdowns. So it's really difficult. He's not running the ball very much. Goff, I can't go with those guys. Just in tournaments, yeah, they're on the table, but in cash, for me, it's probably going to be Winston or Lamar Jackson.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move on over to the running back position then. Sounds like you have your mind made up that you want to spend up on a few guys.
I want to spend up actually at wide receiver more this week. And it's like, this is like, I was looking forward to the show so that we can kind of talk this through because I'm really torn on what to do at running back because.
Well, you start with Chris Carson. I think a lot of people are probably forgetting that the Vikings have a tie in there. So it's not like if the Seahawks somehow lose to the Cardinals, which they're not going to, but if they did lose to the Cardinals and the Vikings won, I don't know if they're going to win. I think the Eagles might even slip in ahead of them. Then the Vikings would be the 5 seed and we'd be looking at Seattle playing the Bears or in Los Angeles against the Rams, which would suck for them. I think they play this one out, man. Pete Carroll, too. He shows no mercy.
You make some sense here, like in the terms of like, I just don't anticipate the Bears playing their starters against the Vikings, and that's why I think the Vikings are going to win. So Seattle does need to win, I guess. Otherwise they will play against the Bears, and there's so many different ways for this to play out.
I would so much rather play the Cowboys than the Bears, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's where I would be as a team. Like, that's just like being honest, because you want to play the team with the lesser defense, I think. Even though the Cowboys are good, they're not the level of the Bears. I mean, I guess you could be right here. I just feel like it still might be a little bit risky considering like.
That's fair.
Like, let's say they jump out to a lead. Like, they could pull Carson out of the game just because they need to rest him because they're going to need him for a big workload.
And they've got 8 running backs, so who cares if it's Chris Carson?
Yeah, that's my only concern there. Like, it makes sense. Like, I really do understand why you want to play him at 6,500. Like, he makes a ton of sense, but it's just like, can I do it?
So who are you trusting at running back then? Dalvin Cook has a horrible matchup against the Bears, but he's cheap. They have to win. Do you like him?
Dalvin Cook, I feel like they didn't price him down nearly enough for me to like him. Like, if he was a little bit cheaper, I would consider him because the Bears have actually shown some vulnerability against the run. The game's in Minnesota. They're 5-point favorites. So I like Dalvin. I actually think Dalvin Cook's an awesome tournament play, but it's tough for me not to go like way down this week. And like,
he's expensive on DraftKings, man. He's number 13 for running backs on FanDuel. He's 18. So I don't mind him on FanDuel. You're right. DraftKings, I can't play him.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like, I don't hate the play, but like, so McCaffrey, like for those listening at home, I just want to mention Christian McCaffrey. Ron Rivera's talked about being smart with him and not playing him very much this week. They have nothing to play for against the Saints. So McCaffrey is like a risky play. Could you play him in a tournament? Sure, because he could break a few long plays. Elliott, probably not going to play very much because I know Jerry Jones mentioned that they're going to play starters, but they're not.
Well, yeah, they said that last time and they played 2 series and then took their starters out.
Yeah, so I don't envision Ezekiel Elliott playing. Todd Gurley, don't know if he plays right now. Doubt it. Doubt he plays a full game even if he did play. Melvin Gordon against Denver. I'm not totally against that play, but again, these are guys that are up top.
What about Saquon against Dallas?
That's what I was about to say. What would you do? Like, if I'm tempted to pay up for one running back, it's Saquon. And the reason is because Dallas is resting some starters. They have allowed 4 running back touchdowns in the last 3 games. When we look at, the recipe for cash game running backs, we want a guy who's at home, a guy who's game script proof, and a guy who's ideally a favorite. The Giants are at home. He's a 3-down back and they are 6-point home favorites. Probably not going to have Odell Beckham. So Saquon at 8,200, I think he might be worth it. I just don't know if I could fit him into my lineup.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing Saquon. Right now I have Chris Carson in there, but man, it's making me nervous. The other guy that I'm definitely using is Royce Freeman, man. He's about to be let loose in the snow.
I had Royce on my list and he's one of those guys that cheap I'm thinking about because Philip Lindsay's not going to play. The Chargers have allowed 8 rushing touchdowns over the last 6 games. And if we know one thing about Royce Freeman is he's money around the goal line. The Chargers have also allowed 4.8 yards per carry over the last 3 games. I mean, the losses to their front 7 have affected that defense. The game script isn't going to be great here. Like Devontae Booker might even be a sharp play just because he's going to rack up some receptions. But I think Royce Freeman at 3,500 makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that's going to get double-digit carries, probably get a couple passes mixed in. But what about even like Peyton Barber at 3,600?
Oh, yuck, dude. Are you serious? You want to play him in a cash game?
3,600, man. Like the guy is getting like 15 plus touches a game over Atlanta's last 7 games.
And in a lot of those games, he's got like 4 points.
No, he scored actually like I think 3 touchdowns.
Okay, yeah, you're looking at PPR. Okay, he had 5 points against the Saints a couple weeks ago.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so over Atlanta's last 7 games, they've allowed at least 95 rushing yards to running backs in 6 of them. They've allowed over 5 yards per carry in those 7 games. So it's like their run defense is struggling. This is another team that has nothing to play for. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like,
wow, he crushed the Falcons last time they played. 21 fantasy points, his best game of the year.
That's what I'm saying is like Peyton Barber's been playing better as of late. Now it worries me that they went to Jacquizz Rodgers a little bit last game, but again, we're still looking at it like his workload. 17 attempts last week, 19 attempts the week before, 14, 16, 18, 18. You're getting a consistent like 16 to 18 touches per game. You have a better than a 50-50 shot at a touchdown. We're talking 3.6K. Like he allows you to do some good things in your lineups. Man, he's at home. I don't know if they're a favorite in this game. I think that they might be actually because Atlanta is expected to maybe rest some starters. Tampa Bay is a 1-point favorite.
If Todd Gurley's probably sitting again, why not just roll out CJ Anderson? Like I get it. He's a lot more expensive this week, But again, he was just a monster last week. They're 10-point favorites again. I'd be willing to bet if Gurley sits, he gets 20 touches. It's not as good of a matchup against the Cardinals. So like, okay, I won't bet on him getting 160 yards, but 100? Yeah, I'd probably bet on that.
So San Francisco, I actually looked at him, believe me. Like I took a look at him because it would have made sense if Gurley's out. So San Francisco this year, there have been just 4 teams who have rushed for more than 100 yards against them. That's my concern. Now they have allowed at least 1 rushing touchdown in each of their last 5 games. So it's not a terrible matchup for CJ Anderson. They're making you pay a little bit. He's 5,400. I don't think it's a bad play if Gurley's out. But again, he wasn't involved in the passing game though either. And that's my only concern.
Yeah, but why does it matter if they're going to be up 10?
It might not matter. And that's the thing. That's why I like Peyton Barber, I think is interesting. He's like a similar play here.
Let me give you this scenario. Okay. You've got this incredible offense. You've got this marginal running back, maybe mediocre, kind of like Jalen Samuels in Pittsburgh, right? And they're 10-point favorites. He's going to get 15 to 20 touches. He's $5,400. You'd start him in a heartbeat, right?
Probably.
That's CJ Anderson.
I mean, I feel like he's a little Jordan Howard-esque right now, where it's like, if he doesn't score a touchdown, like he busts. Like that's 100% happening.
I think the question is, does he score 1 or 2 touchdowns?
Right. If he scores 1, he'll hit value, I think. Like that's basically what you need for him to hit value. Like he would need to score 2 to crush. And that's like where I'm twisted about him. So Jeff Wilson is someone that's interesting to me. Doug Martin. Like these guys are 4,400. Jeff Wilson, there is no Matt Breida. So we know that Wilson's going to receive the bulk of the carries.
Do we? Because we thought Alfred Morris was going to receive the bulk until Raheem Mostert came along. Like, who knows what Shanahan's going to do?
I think Alfred Morris is legit dead. Like, I think that he's like non-existent to Kyle Shanahan anymore. And the Rams have allowed at least 100 yards rushing to 6 of the last 8 opponents. They've allowed a receiving touchdown to a running back in 4 of the last 7 games.
He can catch the ball.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson, that's the thing is like at 4,400, like I'm just looking for touches right now. If I can get touches out of these running backs down here and like lock them in like Barber, like Royce Freeman, like Jeff Wilson, maybe Doug Martin. But the reason I don't like Martin so much is because he's kind of game script dependent where it's like Kansas City, there was just one game this year where they didn't allow a top 22 running back in PPR formats. That was way back in week 7. So I feel like Martin's a good play at 4,400, but Wilson might be a little bit more not game script dependent.
I like Jalen Richard more than Martin in standard leagues this week, like in redraft leagues. So I don't want to play Martin just because the game script's going to go that way. Richard's so good in passing situations. Jeff Wilson Jr., that makes sense to me. Like the 2 games he started, he had 24 touches and 23 touches. He's probably going to get 20 plus again this week.
That's kind of how I feel, and I feel like the matchup isn't terrible against the Rams. If there's one spot with the Rams that they've been terrible since Aqib Talib came back, it's been on the ground because like their pass defense has been like lights out. They've allowed 2 passing touchdowns the last 4 weeks.
Not against tight ends.
Yeah, Dante Pettis is out. Like that's the thing is like you look at it and you're like, okay, George Kittle, yeah, they have to worry about him, but I just feel like Jeff Wilson might be a sharp play at 4,400, just like getting those touches.
I like him. I think I'm going to move off Chris Carson and add him in there. I've got Freeman, Anderson, and Jeff Wilson now, and tons of money to spend with Patrick Mahomes and George Kittle, who I already alluded to. So let's figure out wide receiver. First, though, I want to talk about another one of the sponsors of today's show, Leesa Mattresses. Man, I have been sleeping like a champ over Christmas break because, we haven't been working quite as much with the fantasy season being over, just getting a little bit of a break, and I've been sleeping in, man. I love my Leesa mattress. Guys, a quality night's sleep helps you recover from distractions faster, prevents burnouts, make better decisions, improve your memory, and overall just make fewer mistakes. It's not marketing. It's just science. To design a better mattress, Leesa leveraged 30-plus years of experience and hundreds of hours of testing to develop the perfect mattress for all body shapes and sleeping styles. And Leesa's mission is to provide a better night's sleep for everybody. Through their 110 program, they donate 1 mattress for every 10 they sell, and that's more than 26,000 mattresses and counting now. Leesa strives to leave the world a better place than they found it, but it doesn't just stop with mattress donations. Together with the Arbor Day Foundation, Leesa plants 1 tree for every mattress they sell, and they're committed to planting 1 million trees by 2025. Don't miss these winter savings. Get $160 off a Leesa mattress at leesa.com/fantasypros. That's LEESA.com/fantasypros. Tags, this is a good way to spend your bonus money, man.
Absolutely. It's that time of the year. And like, what's funny is you mentioned that is like, this was the week where it's like, spend some time with some families, get a little bit of sleep. I am not kidding. I slept longer than I have like ever, yesterday. Yesterday I slept in.
So what'd you get, like 6 hours?
I slept till 7:45. And I know that some people are like, that's still early, but it's not. Like, I'm usually up by like 4:30, 5:30, like in between that window.
Wow, dude, what is wrong with you?
I don't know. Some of the guys on our team, like legit, are going to bed when I'm getting up sometimes. It's crazy.
All right, wide receiver, who do you like? Who do you feel comfortable spending up on? Is it Antonio Brown?
So I would have a hard time deciding between Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster this week. I feel like both of them are good plays, but it's like the price difference isn't massive. It's $400, like $8,700 and $8,300. Antonio Brown against Cincinnati the last time they played, I mean, he had 5 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. So I'm not going to disagree if you want to play him. When the Steelers are at home, you essentially want to try and get as many Steelers in your lineup as you can. I think Roethlisberger is a solid play this week.
Gotta win.
Yeah, just knowing that their back's against the wall. Roethlisberger has been good on prime time. They have James Conner probably coming back, but we don't know if he's 100% and whether or not they like lean on him as much as they typically do. There's a lot of ifs and buts. I just don't like the fact that if they do get out to a lead, I think they coast with it. I don't think they try and pile on points because Roethlisberger could turn the ball over and put Cincinnati right back in the game. So if I'm paying up, I'm probably going to go down to Davante Adams. Davante Adams is just the most consistent wide receiver in the game right now. He has at least 20 PPR points in 8 of his last 10 games, no less than 16 points in any of them. The first time they played against the Lions, he totaled 9 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. Davante Adams he's just playing so well right now, and he's just so consistent. That's what you're looking for in cash, especially when you're paying up.
Now, I know what you're going to say, but I'm asking this because I know a lot of people at home are thinking this. What about Darius Slay?
Well, Darius Slay was on the field the last time they played. Like, Darius Slay, I think, is a fine cornerback.
He's not the best anymore. Not even close.
Like, the thing is like, so many people regard Darius Slay as like one of the best cornerbacks in the game. I don't think he's one of the best in the game. Like, I've watched the NFC North like for a long time before I was even doing this for a living. And, Darius Slay, he's good. He is good. And I think he can limit wide receivers for the most of the time. But when you have a guy like Davante Adams getting, 12 targets a game from Aaron Rodgers, it's impossible to stop that. And it's like Slay had to leave the game last week for a moment. In that short time, we saw Stephon Diggs catch a touchdown. I just feel like if the Packers want to get Davante Adams out of his coverage, they can. All they have to do is move him into the slot, and they'll do that. I just feel like Davante Adams has had much tougher matchups on his schedule this year, and he's overcome them every single time. When you know a wide receiver has a 16-point PPR floor, it's like, okay, he's at least hitting 2x, and most of the time he's going to hit 3x.
Yeah, I like Davante Adams as well. If you're playing on FanDuel, you're going to see questionable knee. I think that's going to leave a lot of people off Davante Adams. He's been banged up all season, playing along the whole time, missing some practices, and still every single week, he's a monster.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. And he's trying to hit certain goals. Like he posted and he said that he hoped that Aaron Rodgers knows that he's trying to hit certain goals.
I saw that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like he'll be playing this week. I'm torn though, because like if you're trying to choose between him and Keenan Allen, I think both of them are fantastic plays this week.
You trust Keenan coming off the injury?
He did. Well, I mean, he played the last game. He was out there the entire time. So I feel like
wasn't very good.
I feel like he wasn't good, but it was a terrible matchup against Baltimore. But the list of wide receivers that Denver has played the last 4 weeks include Jordy Nelson, Jarvis Landry, Dante Pettis, and Tyler Boyd. All of them finished as top 25 receivers.
Jordy Nelson's a top 25 receiver every week. Don't be bashing Jordy Nelson. He's been on fire.
So the last tough competition that Denver faced in terms of like a big name slot receiver, like Juju Smith-Schuster and Keenan Allen himself, Juju had 13 catches for 189 yards and a touchdown, and Keenan Allen had 9 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. If you wanted to pay for both Davante Adams and Keenan Allen, I have no issue with that. And that's kind of where I'm at this week, is where I want to pay up at wide receiver. And if I have to pay down at running back to make that happen, I think I'm willing to, because I just want to pay for the targets at wide receiver.
I really am fond of Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen's prices. Like FanDuel brought them way down for the matchup against the Bears. The Bears have a great defense, but they're not that great against the pass. Going indoors in Minnesota, I don't know which one to like though.
That's the problem, is like we don't have a very big sample size.
Yeah, I can't use either in cash games, but I wanted to bring them up.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, is they lowered them on DraftKings a little bit too. Thielen's 7,400, Diggs is 7. It's still too pricey for me. Like when you can go down to Kenny Galladay at 6,600 and get, more guaranteed targets than either of those guys. It's like, okay. And even in Green Bay, I mean, we saw what Robbie Anderson did to them last week. I would just rather go down to Galladay. I mean, if you're looking for a tournament or something like that, I'm fine with it. But in cash, I would go to Galladay if you're looking at those guys.
Now, you mentioned two of my guys already, okay? I'm definitely playing Devontae Adams. I've got Keenan Allen in there. And when I ask a lot of these questions, it's what are the people listening thinking? Not, hey, I don't think Keenan Allen's very good because he didn't play well last time. I just want to see what you say about it. But yeah, I do have Keenan Allen in there. The other guy I'm using right now is Mike Evans against Atlanta. This guy is a clear-cut wide receiver one. Anytime Jameis Winston plays, he gets Atlanta this week. I love it.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like, the thing is, Atlanta against wide receivers has been better as of late. Like, they haven't allowed a 100-yard receiver since way back in week 9. And that was to Maurice Harris, a slot receiver. You'd have to go all the way back to week 7 to find the last time they allowed a perimeter wide receiver to hit 100 yards. When Evans played them in week 6, he finished with 4 catches for 58 yards. I just feel like Evans is a little bit too hit or miss for me in cash. Like, yes, I'll say he hits more than he misses in terms of that, but I just feel like in a game that doesn't mean a lot to these teams, it's very possible that Mike Evans crushes. And because of that, I think he's a better tournament play. But it's 7,700. You're talking about 3,000 or 300 less than Adams, 200 less than Allen. It's like you're not getting much of a discount to take on that risk. I feel like I think he's a better tournament play, and I think he's an awesome tournament play at that.
All right, who else do you like at wide receiver then?
Julian Edelman's awesome at 7,600. Slot receivers against the Jets is always easy money, but you're paying up for him though. It's so dumb. I hate how much they've jacked up his price, because with no Josh Gordon, you want to play Edelman, and I think he is a good play at 7,600, but he's just so expensive. You need 20 fantasy points out of him, and it's that's not a number he's hitting very often because he's not 100.
Yeah, he's done that 3 times, and he doesn't have much of a ceiling above it.
That's the thing, is just what's his ceiling? 23 points? I mean, so to pay 7,600 doesn't make all that much sense. He is safe, I will say that. But I would rather go down to Robert Woods. And I've been doing this a lot with Robert Woods.
Yeah, Robert Woods is safe all the time. I don't know if I want to play him with CJ Anderson, but I couldn't blame you if you did. I love his price on DraftKings. Don't love it as much on FanDuel.
So San Francisco's been hemorrhaging slot production to wide receivers as of late. The last 6 matchups they've had: Anthony Miller, 3 catches, 24 yards, a touchdown. Doug Baldwin, 4 catches, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Hamilton, 747 and 1 touchdown. Baldwin, 222 and 1 touchdown. Humphreys, 54 yards and a touchdown. Shepard, a touchdown. They've allowed a touchdown to each of the last 6 slot receivers they've played, and Robert Woods has not fallen below 69 yards since week 1. So you're essentially locked into 70 plus yards and a touchdown at 6,900. Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I think that looks pretty good as well. Any value wide receivers you like? I know you're spending up, but for someone looking for a value receiver, who would you point them towards? Courtland Sutton? I don't like him playing in the snow, but $4,500? Whoo!
Do we know for sure there's going to be snow in that game?
We don't know for sure. It could come a little bit later, but I don't know. I mean, if it snows, I don't really want to play a wide receiver in the game.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And it's really tough to pay down at wide receiver this week because there's so many wild cards down there. That's more for tournament plays. I guess if you wanted to say one cheaper one, I guess Jamison Crowder isn't the worst play.
What about Nelson Aguilar and Nick Foles?
I cannot do Aguilar in cash.
I can't either, but it's so tempting, man.
I can't do it.
Foles has been the starter 3 times, and he's had his best 3 games of the season. You look back to last year, Foles and Aguilar destroyed together. I don't understand it, but it's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing, and unfortunately, but I can't do it in cash, and that's why even Crowder, I mean, he has seen 18 targets over the last 3 games with Johnson at quarterback, so there's a floor there. You have a matchup with Philly that has obviously, dealt with some injuries in their secondary, and they're playing backups at all 3 positions. But I mean, I don't think I like him enough to play him. And that's why, to me, I'm just paying up at wide receiver this week.
Okay. The only other play I really love, if I'm looking at these cheaper guys, I can't find anyone that I really trust. Mid-range, there's only one that I really trust, and it's Kenny Golladay going up against Green Bay. Since week 10, he's had 13, 14, 8, 15 targets. He hasn't exactly been getting it done in more difficult coverage against the Cardinals, who are awesome, Aqib Talib, the Bears, the Panthers, the Vikings, the Buffalo Bills. He gets Green Bay this week. I think he gets 12 targets, and he eats.
I actually like it. Green Bay has allowed a 100-yard receiver in 3 of the last 5 games. I think Golladay is a good play at 6,600 for sure. Are
you worried about him missing practice on Wednesday for a chest injury?
Not really. This is the time of the year where everybody's dinged up a little bit. And, he needs to be on the field because they really don't have any other receivers.
All right. Any other wide receivers before we move on to tight end?
Not in cash, no.
All right. At tight end, I think there are only 2 guys to consider. Travis Kelce, as you mentioned, you can make your point on him in just a second. And George Kittle. I mean, we know that the Rams are not very good against tight ends, and we also know that Shanahan really feels bad about not getting him the single game record for yards. He's got a chance to break the single season record for tight end yards this week against a team not very good against tight ends. San Francisco doesn't have anything to play for, but Shanahan wants this. I think Shanahan gets this. Kittle has 100+ yards this game.
Well, that's the thing though. He's still, like, even if he does get the yardage to break that record, Kelsey actually has more yardage than him. So, like, Kelsey's going into this game with 46 more yards than Kittle. So, like, Kittle would have to outproduce Kelsey by 46 yards. So knowing that Kelsey is like going to break a record as well, like he's going to break it. It's going to happen. That's not a question. Kelsey's going to do it against the Raiders. The Raiders are just like legit the worst team in the NFL against tight ends. Like they cannot stop them. It's like looking at wide receivers, and the reason they've been so good at against receivers is because they cannot stop tight ends. Like all season long, it's just been an ongoing joke about their inefficiency to do it. I mean, they've only faced 94 targets on the season, which like it ranks as I think it's like the 10th fewest in the NFL against tight ends, but they've allowed the 5th most yards. They've allowed the 2nd most touchdowns. It's just kind of like ridiculous how much production they allow when tight ends are actually targeted. And Andy Reid's scheme, it kind of works. Like, so when you look at the matchup against opponents, like whatever his scheme does, it works against certain opponents and it doesn't against others, even if they know it's coming. Like the Chargers, they stop Travis Kelce every single time. Every time. There's nothing that they can seemingly do to get away from it. They just can't stop him. And then like when you look at other teams like the Raiders, they can't stop Travis Kelce. They don't have the talent to stop him.
He destroyed them earlier this season.
It was the tight end performance of the year as far as I'm concerned. I know Ertz had some that were up there, but Kelce, I mean, he won. Like we paid for him in DFS the last time he played against Oakland. I'm doing it again. I'm not going to miss out on that type of production. Guaranteed production at the tight end spot. It's impossible for me to get off of him.
I don't have enough money right now, man. I guess I could maybe go down at defense, but I want Kittle too.
I mean, I understand the want for Kittle. I really do. And I think that it's a fine matchup for him too. It's just, I don't think I can do it. I just don't want to be left there watching Kelce and being like, damn it, I knew this was going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're watching a player and just knowing this is the guy I wanted.
Yeah. He had 18.3 points on FanDuel last time they played, 22 on DraftKings. Would you consider 2 tight ends in cash this week, Kelce and Kittle?
I don't think so. I don't think I can because I'm paying up for wide receivers, and then the flex I'm probably going to play someone like Peyton Barber or Jeffrey Wilson.
Like if Kittle was a wide receiver, right? He's $6,300. He's projected for 16.7 points. That's $377 dollars per point projected. That's number 3 on our model, right behind Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams.
I mean, I don't have an issue with playing him. Like, I mean, if you don't have the money to get to Kelce, I mean, you don't really have a choice and you can play Kittle, but it's not like you're getting a massive discount. Like it's $400 cheaper, and I'm going bare minimum, like, not quite $100 above the minimum on defense. So I just can't do it. I think they're both good plays. Would I do it in cash? I mean, probably not. I'll just take the guaranteed touches with a running back in that slot, but I don't think it's like a bad idea.
All right, let's move on over to DST. I don't like anyone. I just want to spend cheap.
That's exactly how I feel. Like, I am going to have the Giants probably in cash.
Okay.
Just because they're going to be playing a bunch of backups with Dallas. I mean,
2,100 on DraftKings. Yeah, our model has them as the best bet on DraftKings. Their price isn't as good on FanDuel, but I don't blame you at all there.
Yeah, I just don't see any way that Dallas scores a whole bunch of points in this game. And the Giants defense, to their like credit, they've been much better ever since they
so good.
Yeah, ever since they traded away some players, like their defense has been playing a little bit better. Defense is such a crapshoot every single week, and it's like playing Philadelphia last week, that hurt. They just couldn't do anything. And like continually, I saw a stat, I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but the Eagles are the only team in the NFL. Their defense is the only one in the NFL who has yet to have a top 10 performance on defense.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Man, they've got a lot of talent. That's surprising.
They did. I mean, that secondary is atrocious, but I mean, the front seven's not getting much pressure. Was there another team that you're considering? Like
FanDuel, I like the Bills against Miami. That's who I'm using right now. Our model has them at number 1. The Vikings against Chicago intrigued me if I had the money to do it. Just because the Vikings are playing for their lives, and that defense, man, is so good when they've got it going. Trubisky's a little bit turnover prone, so I think that's a decent one as well. On DraftKings, I kind of like the Packers. Like if you're going cheap against Detroit, Stafford hasn't been as good. Packers have been playing quite a bit better as well. Or you could spend up and go with the Bears against Minnesota. Not a bad call. Jacksonville gets Houston's awful offensive line. Jacksonville's just 2,300 on DraftKings.
Yeah, but it's so tough to pay for them. Like, that team is just going nowhere in a hurry. I wonder, I don't think it's a bad play at 2,300. They're probably a really good tournament play. Like, cause if you get a pick six, you get some sacks, you're set. But the Vikings, I like that one because I don't even know, again, we don't know if the Bears are going to rest Trubisky. They may even put Chase Daniel in there. And Chase Daniel obviously threw multiple interceptions against the Giants. That didn't look very good. So yeah, this week is just like one where it's like find your cheapest defense that you like and just kind of go with them. Like, I think the Chiefs are a decent play too. They're at home. They're 13.5 point favorites. You could be looking at a pick six from Derek Carr. Like, at 2,600, they're not a bad play.
All right, man, let's circle back around and go GPP. And we have so much more time than usual. We did a good job.
We did. Look at us.
All right, who are you going with at DST for GPP? Do you have one or two that you like?
I think you hit it on the head, like in terms of like Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's a good one to play in tournaments. But if you want to go like Houston Texans I'm not going to do it. I think they're going to be more popular than I would like. Like, I anticipate that their like projected ownership will be higher. Going down to the Ravens have been playing like phenomenal defense of late. And I know that Baker Mayfield has played well, but he's also thrown some picks at times. Like, he's also got, it's like, I think the Ravens will get pressure on him. And if you get pressure, he could be forced into some bad decisions. Baltimore playing at home for their playoff life. So I think Baltimore is a defense that I'll probably have more of than, most would think.
I've got two GPP plays that I love. The Atlanta Falcons at Jameis Winston. You never know when Winston's going to have one of his 5 turnover games. And the Falcons have been playing so much better lately on defense. It's a real shame we don't get to see them in the playoffs. Like, I know they're not a complete team, but they're coming along at the right time. They've got 13 sacks in their last 3 games. They had 5 interceptions in the last 2 weeks. This defense is coming together, and their offense has a lot of firepower too. So I like them. I also like the Arizona Cardinals against Seattle. Like, let's say Seattle does end up resting their starters in some capacity. Their backup quarterback is Brett Hundley, and we know all about him. He could be a turnover monster here against a quite good Arizona Cardinals defense. So I like that one as well for GPP.
Yeah, very cool. I dig it.
All right, tight end. My GPP advice is go Kittle or Kelsey. Don't screw around. One of these guys is going to have by far the biggest week. Nobody else has any chance at it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go down, I guess we should discuss some of the cheaper options. Chris Herndon at 3,400 makes some sense against New England. That should be a pass-heavy game for the Jets. Darnold's obviously playing better.
Sure, maybe he gets in the end zone once and scores 10 points. Like, that doesn't do the trick for me, man.
Yeah, no, Herndon, I mean, like, to his credit, like, he's now, like, ever since, like, taking on a bigger role in the offense, I think it's, like, the last 9 games, maybe, it might even be 10, but he's had 5 different games where he's topped at least, 53 yards. So it's like, he's getting the job done for, like, those who want to stream tight ends. And it, like I said, a game script against New England, you can't ask for much better. I don't think that, I mean, I would be surprised if Darnold doesn't throw the ball at least 35 times in this game. And when you figure that Robbie Anderson, his new favorite target, is going to be matched up with Stephon Gilmore, and New England is playing for something in this game, by the way. So they've struggled with defending tight ends. So I just feel like at 3,400, he's not a bad play. And I also think David Njoku at 3,700 isn't terrible either, because Baltimore like literally shuts down wide receivers. So if you're going to look for Baker to get some production anywhere, I think Njoku is the best bet.
What about Kyle Rudolph? I can't believe I'm saying this, but like Kyle Rudolph actually hasn't been that bad this season. If you look at him in terms of, he's the number 8 tight end so far this season. Can you believe that?
It's like stupid. That just goes to show how bad the tight end position has been this year. Like Trey Burton hasn't been good, and I have him down in PPR formats as the number 8 tight end. Rudolph's number 7 in PPR. Burton is number 8, Njoku number 9, Austin Hooper's number 6. Like, what is happening? Like, I don't know. This is going to be a big conversation that we're going to have in the offseason in regards to how much should you spend up for tight end and which ones should you do it. I'm sure a lot of people are going to spend up for Ebron, but he's not someone that, with Doyle coming back, I don't think he's someone that you should. And I know that we're going into like a different conversation than DFS, but it just goes to show how ugly the tight end position is. So if you can pay for production right now, I just do that.
Yeah, man, Rudolph has done absolutely nothing this year. Like, there are 4 wide receivers who have scored more than him since week 10 than he has all season.
Whew. It's not great.
Yeah, not very good. Okay, wide receiver. There's a ton that I love here. I love DeAndre Hopkins against Jacksonville. He's $8,700 on FanDuel. and I could see him just having a monstrous day against a Jacksonville defense that just falls apart sometimes. Like, they just don't care some weeks. He had 39 points against the Jets just 2 weeks ago. This guy's having the best season of anybody in the NFL for a wide receiver as far as I'm concerned. Now, granted, his stats haven't exactly been there, but in terms of playing the best football, I think it's been Hopkins. So I could see him going nuts against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, Hopkins is like, I don't ever want to shut him down, but I don't know how much he gets done. Like, even against Jalen Ramsey, if you have 80 yards and a touchdown, it's like considered a really, really good game. And I just wish that they would like mark down these wide receivers, like when they're playing them, like from 8,100, like to get a ceiling, like a legit ceiling. I feel like in a PPR format this week, I would say is maybe 24 points. I don't think that's going to win you a tournament. And that's like, cause you're allocating so much of your funds to that position. I wish they'd make it a legit decision where it's like, if they put DeAndre Hopkins at like 6,800, 7,200, somewhere in that range, I feel like that would be a decision that it's like, okay, I could take on that risk because it's going to leave me with a little bit more funds. But at 8,100, when like I mentioned, Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen, who are safer and come with more upside, I would just rather play them.
We're talking GPP though, man. Like, there's a scenario Hopkins scores 30 points this week.
I don't think there is though. Like,
no one's going to play him.
Has anybody done that against Jalen Ramsey outside of Antonio Brown when he saw like 20 targets, right?
Yeah, you're right. I could see that happening with Hopkins though, with Texans needing to get a win there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball against Jacksonville. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's like a terrible play. I just don't think the ceiling is where I'd like it to be.
Thomas is out too. Like, who are they going to pass the ball to?
That's true. You're probably looking at a 12-target game.
Alfred Blue.
Yeah.
I love Chris Conley this week. The reason why, Oakland is very good against number one receivers. In fact, they're number one in football, if you can believe it. They haven't been good against the pass. They've been extremely good against number one receivers. I don't know if they can slow Tyreek Hill down, but I see a scenario where Chris Conley has another big game, catching 2 touchdowns like he did in week 11 against the Rams for 26 fantasy points. The other one I love, I mentioned him earlier, and I think you guys probably thought it was a joke, but Jordy Nelson has actually been playing really good football. Like, everyone's excited about Robert Foster because of the streak he's been on over the last 5 weeks. Jordy Nelson's been better, guys.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson, it's kind of dumb. Like, when I was going through my rankings and everything, I could not believe like the numbers that Jordy Nelson's put up the last few weeks. I don't know if the upside is there again. Like, when they score under 14 points on the road per game and going up against the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
You think that's going to happen against the Chiefs, man?
I mean, it's Arrowhead.
52.5 over under.
I believe a lot of that comes from the Chiefs.
You're probably right. Oh yeah, I'm looking at their implied score and it's 19 this week. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's the part. I mean, I think Nelson would be more of like someone I'd consider in cash, which is like odd, but I don't know if he has the ceiling that I would want.
Yeah, he's got, 36 targets in the last 4 games. That's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, who do you like for GPP?
Well, in tournaments, I mean, like, I think one of my favorites was Mike Evans. I think that he's one of those guys that I feel like is just an awesome play. And like, I know you had mentioned him, for cash, but I think he's a good tournament play. Like, he's a guy that it wouldn't shock me if he walked away with 2 touchdowns in this game. Like, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's something that you look for in tournaments. Like, you're looking for that upside. So if you're paying for a receiver, I think he makes a whole lot of sense. And I know that I kind of put him down last week and I didn't like him at all. Robert Foster at 5,100. I mean, a lot of people are going to move off of him based on the lackluster performance he had last week, but he's like that deep ball guy and they're going up against Miami. Miami's secondary has been mediocre. I think to put it nicely. So I feel like a guy that can catch, a deep ball or 2. I think that's someone to look at in tournament. Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones, it's like trying to pick between one of the two because I feel like Tampa Bay is going to allow one of them to have a big game. It's just like Julio missed practice again. I do think he's going to play because at this point it's just kind of like numbers for him. He's got 104 receptions, over 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns on the season. So it wouldn't shock me if he played, and Tampa Bay has been a team that they've kind of destroyed in the past. Like Julio continually destroys Tampa Bay. So I think Julio or Ridley would make a lot of sense as well.
I have one more name, and it is going to make you throw up, absolutely. But, I do think he is a good play because Blake Bortles loves Dante Moncrief. And Moncrief's had some big games with Blake Bortles. You mentioned him. We already talked about him having more 20-point games than Tom Brady this year. In that time, Dante Moncrief has a 22, a 19, a 15, a 14, a 13. He's stupid cheap. Blake Bortles is back. Going up against Houston, they're going to be playing down. Bortles is the garbage time king. I could see Moncrief creeping up to 20 points this week.
That's interesting. I mean, the only concern I have is like the new offense, and that's another reason that I can't bring myself to play Bortles. Ever since they changed the offense, like they fired the offensive coordinator, like that offense has just gone downhill. Like there has been no turnaround.
Which is really saying something because they were really low to begin with.
They were bad to begin with, but it's like they've been worse, like legit worse. They can't run the ball. Their offensive line, they're missing 4 of 5 starting offensive linemen. It's just so bad there that I don't think I want to tie anybody to that team. But what about like Josh Doxson against Philly? 3,400.
I don't have any problem with that on DraftKings. FanDuel, I don't want to spend for him, but FanDuel, I would rather go with one of the Green Bay Packers receivers. Equanimeous St. Brown's been playing more. And my favorite, man, I should have played him last week and I knew it, Jake Kumerow, because Rodgers loves Jake Kumerow and he hasn't been playing as much. There's a chance he gets in the game a lot more this week. And if he does, I mean, this guy, I want to own him next year. I'm not talking about dynasty leagues. I'm talking redraft leagues. I think he's going to be a starter for the Packers next year.
I wonder, like, that's a depth chart you definitely want to pay attention to. Like, just Geronimo Allison come back and reclaim that spot. Jamon Moore, we haven't heard anything about him. I'm really happy that you brought up Equanimeous St. Brown.
He's a player, isn't he?
Well, because like he fell in the draft process because like there was some question marks, but Kumerow did play actually more snaps than him last week, 57 to 39. Marquez Valdez-Scantling actually played the second most snaps in the team. And this is like noteworthy because when Randall Cobb is out, that means Valdez-Scantling plays the slot. And the slot has been very good, like a position to target against Detroit. So Valdez-Scantling actually might be the Packers wide receiver if Randall Cobb is out to play because St. Brown and Kumerow are essentially just splitting reps as the number 2 receiver.
Yeah, Kumerow's a deep play threat though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, running back position. Who do you like?
Running back, we talked about a lot of the cheap ones, but I think there's another cheap one in there that I really definitely am considering in tournaments, and that's Kenyon Drake. I get it. And like the thing is like, I think you could actually make the case to play him in cash, but I'm not going to do it just because there's other cheap options. But Buffalo has allowed at least 20.5 PPR points to 8 of the last 9 teams of running backs, including 26 or more PPR points to 6 of those teams. So basically what you're saying is like when you look at this, you're like, okay, the Dolphins are going to score, like, I think we can anticipate right around, like, at least 23, 24 PPR points as a team. Kalen Ballage kind of went back to being who he is. He's not very good. We know that. Brandon Bolden, I mean, he scored a touchdown, but whatever. Kenyon Drake's the most talented running back on the team. I keep going back to that. Buffalo, if there's a weakness on that team, it's against the run. I figure that's going to be a lower scoring game. They should be able to run the ball as much as they want. I just feel like Kenyon Drake at 3,700, would it shock you if he ran for a touchdown and caught a receiving touchdown? No, it wouldn't.
Wouldn't it shock me? There's a couple guys that I do like more. One of them is Jamal Williams. I don't really like him, but he could get in the end zone 2, maybe even 3 times because, you know, he's the workhorse there in a good offense against a bad defense. The one that I like the most, though, is Sony Michel going up against the Jets. Patriots need to win this game, and we know Michel is a goal line back. I could see him piling up 150 total yards with multiple touchdowns. That is a GPP winning running back right there.
You know what's crazy about that? Sony Michel, I put in quite a few lineups last week. I liked Sony.
Yeah. I should have mentioned him for cash games, by the way.
And the thing is like, at 5,200, the reason that I don't consider him for cash is just because he doesn't catch passes. Not because he can't. This keeps going back to that. Like the Patriots are not using him to his full capacity. And I think it's because they have James White, they have Rex Burkhead, they have Julian Edelman, guys that operate in that area of the field. But Sony Michel was a better receiver than he was even a running back when at Georgia. So it's like, it's odd to me to see him have like 1 catch in like the last like 4 games or whatever. But that's the reason is just he's not using the passing game, but he is a double-digit home favorite. The Jets did allow back-to-back 200-yard rushing games within the last 6 games. So it's there's a big game to be had here. There's a scenario where Sony Michel goes over 100 yards and scores 2 touchdowns.
Yep, definitely agree with that. All right, who else do you like here?
David Johnson, 5,700. If for whatever reason Seattle does rest some of their starters, like their run defense hasn't even been great. Over the last 8 games, we're talking about half of a season. Over the last 8 games, Seattle is allowing 5.43 yards per carry. They've also, during those 8 games, allowed 542 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns to running backs. So looking at the, you know, he's getting the touches. I'm not saying like it's very attractive just because like his team doesn't score very much, but David Johnson is the one that they're going to lean on for most of the game. Larry Fitzgerald, the matchup in the slot hasn't been great against Seattle for wide receivers. So I think David Johnson at 5,700 is another guy that you could probably lock in for 18 touches. And could he score 2 touchdowns? Sure.
All right, I got 2 more names here. Melvin Gordon, who we mentioned. Don't really know what the Chargers are going to do. Melvin Gordon's kind of been eased back in. I could see him getting a ton of touches this week in a game that they've got to win. And again, if it snows, that could be awesome. And then my other play, Tags, I hope you love this one because I am all in on Dwayne Washington for GPP contest this week. He's the only other running back besides Ingram and Kamara. I could see both those guys getting some work, but if the Saints are going to be resting players, Dwayne Washington could be looking at 20 touches, man. He's minimum price on FanDuel. I'm sure he is on DraftKings as well because it's Dwayne Washington, but this Saints offense, man, anybody could run the ball in it.
Yeah, he's 3,000. He's the bare minimum. I mean, in tournaments, I guess it's not the worst idea. The question is, does New Orleans rest some starters on their offensive line as well? Teron Armstead was hurt last week.
He's mostly a pass protector.
No, right. But I mean, the thing is, you do need that push up front. And, I don't know if I can go to Dwayne Washington. I mean, I understand what you're saying, when you go through that, but I can't do it personally.
Okay.
I can't. What about, like, if you're looking for something like that, I think Brian Hill makes some sense. If you're looking for like a guy that's cheaper, like he's 3,900, against Tampa Bay. Brian Hill, I mean, he might be auditioning for the backup role. I have no idea what's going on with Ito Smith, if he's going to be back for the start of next year, but with Devonta Freeman getting another year older, dinged up, obviously, Ito Smith having a surgery this offseason, Brian Hill, I think he might just see 15 touches in this game.
Yeah. All right, let's go quarterback. Who do you like for GPP?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I kind of go up. I think Roethlisberger makes a lot of sense in tournaments. If you go to 7K, because like you're taking your shots on players, in tournaments, like some of the cheaper players. So if you're able to pay up at quarterback, Ben makes a whole lot of sense. That's probably my favorite one.
What about Nick Foles again against the Washington defense that's crumbling? Nick Foles going for the Super Bowl, man.
I am not doing Foles.
Over under 450 yards for Nick Foles this week.
That's too funny. There's some people that would say the over, but not me.
Oh man, I'm so glad you didn't talk me off him in cash last week. I think you would have if we didn't have a guest, but the guest was like, oh, that's not a bad play. Otherwise, you probably would have pressed your buzzer and blasted me for it.
No, the thing is Houston has been terrible. It's just tough to rely on Foles and cash when I know how bad he can look at times. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. It was just the price, man. And I think I might have got lucky on that one.
No, well, there's people now, like, there's legit, like, people saying, so should the Eagles trade Carson Wentz? Where should he be next year? And this and that. I'm like,
are you serious? They're not joking?
No, some people are serious about that Nick Foles is fine in that system, that they don't need Carson Wentz. And I'm like, that's just dumb. Like, stop. Do you guys not remember, like, the first couple games of the season with Nick Foles?
Other quarterbacks you like? We've mentioned most of the ones I like. Derek Carr against Kansas City. I know, Tags, you hate Derek Carr and everything. I like him as a real life quarterback. In fantasy, he's not great, but he does have some big games this year. 32 points against Cleveland, 28 against the Colts, 24 against the Chiefs last time they played. I could see a scenario where he racks up 3-4x.
I think I'd like Jared Goff. Goff has looked like crap. I'm not sitting here telling you that Jared Goff's been awesome, but they need to get him going for the playoffs because, like, they're about to go into another bye week if they win this game. And after the bye is when Jared Goff kind of went downhill. Like, they need to get him right somehow, some way. And I feel like San Francisco, with their dinged up secondary, it's very possible that we could see like a 3 or 4 touchdown game out of Jared Goff. So, and like,
I watched the tape this week, man. Goff played such a good game against the Cardinals. I think he's back. I think this is a really good call. Because remember, the Cardinals have a great secondary, and he only threw the ball 24 times. But in that, he looked like the old Jared Goff.
There you go. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he looked terrible for the 3 weeks prior. Like, I still feel like there's still some rust there, and I feel like that, the run game might struggle a little bit against San Francisco, knowing that they've been better against the run. So I just feel like Goff, I mean, he's one of those guys that when you're looking at tournaments, like, some people get cute. They're like, all right, let me go down to cheaper quarterbacks. Let me see if I could find someone like Josh Johnson or Eli Manning or whatever. But I think that it's just like looking for those guys that can give you that 3 or 4 touchdown game, and Jared Goff has proven to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And of course, we have to mention Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson, all the running quarterbacks who have big time upside as well. Any other quarterbacks? Blake Bortles, I'm sure you want to mention him at the end, right?
No, I talked, the thing is, I wanted to talk about him because I think that, like, when I first saw it kind of made sense, but then the more I thought about it, the more bad, like, how terrible the offense has looked, how bad the offensive line has looked. Houston has struggled over the last 4 games, so it's not like crazy, but Bortles also, you have to factor in the fact that he has been terrible on the road. Like, against Houston especially, he's been brutal when playing in Houston, like, terrible. And knowing that pass rush against a backup offensive line, it's like, it's essentially like Blake Bortles is playing behind, like he's playing with the backups in the third quarter of the third preseason game or the second preseason game against a healthy front seven for the Texans with JJ Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. So it's like, I can't do it.
All right, Tags, I've got a stat for you, man. Did you know that Blake Bortles has more 25-point fantasy games than Andrew Luck since they joined the NFL?
This is the worst stat of all time.
It's the greatest stat. Guess who else he has more than? Patrick Mahomes. I'm just messing. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, is 1 behind Andrew Luck already. He's got 10. He's got 10 of those just this year. Andrew Luck has 11 since he joined the NFL.
That's crazy.
That is incredible, man.
That's just nuts.
All right, let's move on over to our stack of the week and our lock of the week, and then we'll close you out. And we're going to be doing a playoff DFS show every week, too, so make sure to tune in for that one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to be doing a DFS primer, too. So it's not going to be like the crazy long primer that you guys are used to. Obviously, it's not as many games, but I'll be covering all players from a DFS standpoint. So make sure to check that out Thursday mornings. But yeah, my stack of the week, I'm going to go with Jameis Winston and Mike Evans.
Ooh, okay. I thought you were going to go Mahomes and Kelsey. I thought about it, but I'm so gung-ho about Kittle that I didn't want to use that one. I really like Devontae Adams as my favorite wide receiver this week, so I'm going to go with him and Aaron Rodgers, who's a great price for Aaron Rodgers.
I like it. And that's the thing is Rodgers is in that conversation with Goff. And you know what's so funny, Bobby, is that I was sitting in front of my computer last Sunday morning going through lineups, and my wife, sometimes she'll walk down and sit next to me, and I just start bringing things up to her, like bouncing things off. Like I'm talking to myself, but it's like somebody listening, right? And I told her, I was like, I want to play Aaron Rodgers more in tournaments this week, but it's like he hasn't shown the ceiling that he wants. And I'm like, I feel like there's a week that's going to happen where it's like he's going to say, hey guys, hello, I'm Aaron Rodgers, like play me. And then he goes and he has that was actually the best performance in a fantasy championship by a quarterback ever. That's the stat that I heard. So it was like, I'm so mad because I played a lot of Kirk Cousins last week in tournaments because I saw his ownership was like 1%. I was like, this makes no sense. So I'm going to play Cousins. I only had like a couple Rodgers lineups, so I'm a little disappointed in myself, but Rodgers makes a lot of sense.
People are so mad at Aaron Rodgers. Is he having his best season of all time?
No, he's not. He's actually
He's got 2 interceptions.
In my opinion, he's actually having one of his worst seasons of all time.
After this week, he's going to have the most passing yards he's had of any season all time. He's got 2 interceptions. What exactly is the problem here?
The thing is it just feels like it's a different league that we're playing in. So if you were to compare his numbers, like I understand when you look over his course of his career that they're better numbers, like, but 25 passing touchdowns through 15 games, that's not Aaron Rodgers territory. Like, this is a guy that should be throwing 3 touchdowns a game, like on average. Like, there's going to be games with 2. There might be here and there have 1, but averaging, just over
48 touchdowns a year.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
I mean, if he was on the Chiefs, he'd have 60 right now. I don't know why you're laughing because that's true.
I'm not taking anything away from Mahomes this year. I'm not doing it. But I will say that this year, I mean, I've watched Rodgers and, obviously I've been on record as saying that I believe he's the most talented quarterback of all time. And, I just feel like this year was a down year. And that's saying a lot when you look at his numbers to say that, I feel like it's his worst year. I've watched all of his games and, I can just say that things are just a little bit off in this offense. He misses some throws that he typically makes. His completion percentage is down. And I think that a lot of that comes down to having all the receivers around him are just outside of Devontae Adams. Like Jimmy Graham hasn't been anything, Valdez Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, like these guys they're guys that are forced into action that have no rapport with Aaron Rodgers. So, but again, we're at the end of the year. We saw a glimpse of what, he can do last week. We were reminded who he is. So I dig it.
All right, man. What's your lock of the week?
Lock of the week is Travis Kelce. It's very rare that I'm willing to pay up for tight ends just because you can get some for so cheap and you're kind of locked into targets like CJ Uzomah last week. It kind of made sense, but I can't get away from Kelce this week. Can't do it. Just can't do it. There's just too many cheap plays at running back so that I can actually pay up at tight end. So I'm going Kelce.
I was going to say Kittle. I already mentioned that earlier in the show, but I'm going to change courses here because the Kelce play is just so good. Like, I'm using Kittle. Don't get me wrong, but it's not, it's a lock for value, but you don't have to lock him into your lineup. The guy you do need to lock into your lineup, as far as I'm concerned, is Royce Freeman at $4,700 on FanDuel. Royce Freeman is a very good running back, but we just don't know that because Philip Lindsay's been there. Philip Lindsay's not there anymore. This Chargers defense is great, but is not as good against the run. I think Freeman goes nuts this week. I think he hits 4x value, maybe 5x.
Well, Royce Freeman, he's only 3,500 on DraftKings. He might be better on FanDuel just because it's not a PPR format, and Royce Freeman's not. I mean, he hasn't caught a lot of passes, but we probably should have mentioned that. The Devontae Booker is probably a sharp tournament play as well because he's like dirt cheap. But I like the Royce Freeman call.
All right, that's all for today's show, and thanks to the sponsors of today's show, Leesa Mattresses, where you can get $160 off your mattress order at leesa.com/FantasyPros, and thanks to PristineAuction.com. We've got the signed David Johnson helmet giveaway at FantasyPros.com/contest to enter. Make sure to check that one out and submit a review if y'all don't mind. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.